Welcome to the Artist Podcast. This podcast features Evan Nagao, the 2018 Yo-Yo Champion of the World and founder of Heaven Entertainment, and his business partner, Nigel Ford, the founder of Trip Productions. Together, they interview successful creative artists from all walks of life to hear about their story, their failures, and how they successfully navigated the industry in which they operate. This is the very first episode, and today they will be diving into parts of their story, as well as speaking about their vision and plan to create a business that will make a hugely positive impact in the world. Enjoy!
Okay, we're live. This is the Artist Podcast for the first time ever, the first ever episode. I'm pretty freaking stoked. Do you want to kind of like lay down what this is about?
Yeah, well, I guess we could start with introductions of who we are. So I guess I'm Nigel Ford, and I'm excited.
What to say? It's okay. That's what a podcast is.
Should we just give like backgrounds of ourselves?
Yeah. So I'm Evan Nagao. I'm a musician, previously the World Yo-Yo Champion. So I think Nigel and I were just talking over lunch today, and we decided that we wanted to create a podcast because it would really kind of serve the purposes for us of letting some of our ideas out into the world and helping people who are also going through the same process of starting up their business and being an artist and an upcoming artist, as well as get some really cool artists on the show eventually. But we just thought, while we were sitting at lunch, if we don't start the podcast now, like today, then, well, it's not going to happen. So this is like the first podcast we're doing. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's cool. We're just here, just chilling. And I think we have some ideas on how to make it good. But yeah, we're just doing the first episode. So
yeah, right on. Yeah, so we actually came together about a year ago and started talking a little bit about how like we wanted to jam together, we wanted to make music together. Kind of told him about how I'm a producer, poet, entrepreneur, making my way out of the sewer, finding different ways to be creative, just wanting to connect with other individuals. And we knew we had a like mindset, but we just, because of busy lives, we never really got together. And one of the blessings of this chaos that's been going on with the virus all around the world is it allowed us to have a lot of time to settle back into our own maybe selfish routines, and we ended up getting together and realized that we have a lot of similarities. We think a lot alike, and we figured we might as well start doing some business endeavors together. So this is kind of one of our first action-oriented things that we've been talking about. Also going to start moving into creating some music and pressing that up and just showing the world and carrying out our vision. Do you want to talk a little bit about our vision maybe?
Yeah, dude, for sure. Well, like first of all, like to kind of add on to what you're saying about how we came together and we just realized we had so much in common. It was like almost trippy. Like
it was.
Yeah, it was like you would talk about a book and it was just like, wait, I read that book, and then you would talk about like a YouTube channel that you're following like on personal development, like after school or something, and I'd just be like, wait, I like literally just watched that video yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been like super trippy. So I mean, our minds are so similar. It's like almost by fate that we came together and like started creating this like mastermind. And for those who don't know what a mastermind is, it's basically where you have two people that come together to kind of envision something greater than you could have done on your own. So that's like the general idea. But probably if you're watching this, you have a decent knowledge of personal development and you kind of know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
So our vision is really, actually my vision initially before I even met you was to meet a mastermind partner. Did I tell you that?
Not specifically, no.
So yeah, it's weird. Like that was my initial vision and I didn't know who it was going to be, but then we came together and like it just happened that, wow, we think a lot alike and we have a lot to offer to each other. So I'm really working really hard on my music right now, and you're like super good at like business acumen, and you have a lot of knowledge through like all of the personal development and all this business stuff that you've read through. And so now both of us are at like the beginning points of our careers where we have all this knowledge and like we think we know what we're doing, but we haven't proven it yet. Like we haven't actually done it yet. So it's like what we're trying to do in my eyes is to work together, you more on the business side, me more on the artist side, to like create a brand of successful music brand, I guess you could say.
Right.
It seems like what we're trying to do. I don't know, maybe you can add to that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Also just giving back, making a positive impact in the music industry. I've always wanted to do that, and I see this as such a pivotal time in the music industry and just industries across the world as a whole. Everything's getting very shaken up right now with the pandemic. So I see this not only as an opportunity to break in and make a lot of money, but also make our stance in the world and spread all of this positivity that we have to give back and really spread the message of what we're going for, which is helping people, helping build communities, helping people realize what it means to personally and professionally develop yourself. And through music, I think, is a beautiful way to do that, and just all that you can do with the aftermath of that, like you see so many large artists do today, which is what we're excited about to carry out the vision of this podcast, is to talk to some of those artists, maybe start small, but eventually we're going to be conversating with artists who have done incredible things, artists who have built up a platform, and now they're using that platform to give back to communities and really make a difference in their industry and other industries beyond that.
Damn. Yeah, no, that's what I love about this guy, man. Like we really align on that plane of just giving back and trying to add value in whatever way we can. So definitely look out for when we have bigger artists on here and have people that have the experience that can help kind of guide you and guide us too through the process.
Right. That's what we were talking about. Guess maybe the clout and the leverage that we don't have right now. We want to borrow it from other people, so we just want to reach out to as many artists as possible and have them speak their journey, not only just to help the people that we're trying to reach with this podcast, but also help us in our journey, right? We're trying to do incredible things and we're trying to make it, and the level that where they're at maybe isn't where they want to be at, but is where we want to get to eventually and obviously surpass, right?
So if you're an artist with like a decent following and have a message that you want to share to people, get out into the world, hit us up, let us know.
Just tell your story, really. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your failures. We want to hear everything and how you overcame that. We want to know about your entrepreneurial endeavors, how you navigated the industry, right? With such a pivotal time with the birth of the internet, it's so easy to be able to launch very independently and just do pretty much everything yourself. We're really interested in people who have taken that route, but also people who have still utilized all the resources around them, whether it be through a team of people being very independent or through the traditional route with a label. We're interested in all that. We just want to know how you navigated that, because it's so convoluted. I mean, there's so much. Anybody who's ever tried to create some level of greatness has realized that it's just, there's so many different avenues. That's been one of my struggles that this guy helped point out to me is I have all these ideas in my head. I want to accomplish all these things, but my problem is I was spreading myself so thin. I was trying to do all these things at once, but he's helping me now, and together we're going to pinpoint our focuses and pinpoint our skills and our talents, and together that's what the mastermind is, and we're now able to achieve that next level. We're able to put ideas into action and put them out into the world now quicker and more fluently.
Yep. And that's what this is. We're just taking action. Today we had the idea of the podcast, and today we're recording our first podcast episode. So it's amazing how fast things go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's do the intro, dude.
Yeah.
This is an idea. This is an idea that we had today. We're just gonna do, instead of a normal like, hey, this is the artist podcast, blah blah blah, the number one artist podcast or whatever. We're gonna do an actual like artist podcast song intro. So it just goes like, yeah, it's the artist podcast.
There's going to be some cool little thing that I mastered.
Nigel's just starting to learn guitar. I gave him his first guitar, or his third guitar, but technically like one of his first guitars the other day. So
So I actually came up with this really cool bass line. You want to hear it?
Yeah. Let's see it.
Just check this out, just for.
All right. I
thought it was cool.
dope. It's kind of like, it's bluesy. It's bluesy.
Yeah, you probably slow it down too. Just to get the energy flowing. Now I feel impeccable.
Dope. Yeah, so yeah, this is officially the start of the first podcast, and yeah, I'm really just interested to kind of just talk to you right now. I think from what I've noticed in terms of podcasts, the best podcasts are like there is no like audience. Have you ever noticed that? It's almost like you're just talking like what we're doing over lunch. We're just talking to each other, and we're just thinking of ideas and like going off of those ideas, and it's like we're just talking, but like there's also like a microphone recording us.
Yeah, but yeah, almost like that ping pong, like when you can hear in a podcast they're just talking to each other, and it's like that ping pong match, and you almost feel like you're in the conversation, like you want to interject. You don't even feel like you're sitting there listening to it with headphones or whatever, right? And that's almost like the level that we're at, right? Where we're I think it was like that first mastermind session that we had where we were talking and for like 5 hours, and it was just like time flew by, and it just felt like we were saying almost like we were talking to ourselves in our own head, just because every idea was like resonated on that frequency so well.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, totally. I totally feel like when you have a good conversation, it's not necessarily that you're talking and saying something and then the other person is saying what they think and then you're saying what you think. It's like if you're really actively listening, like if I'm really listening to what you're saying, it's like I'm hearing all the things that you're talking about, like you know, our past experience with conversations and all these different ideas, and then I'm building off of what you're talking about, and then as I'm talking, then you start talking about what I'm talking about because you're actively listening to me, and there's this kind of creation of this thought process that we're going through. And I think a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just, while the other person's talking, they tend to just be thinking about the next thing that they're going to say. And then it's like, it's not coherent. So I think what I found is like exactly what you're talking about. When we started talking the first time we met, it was exactly that. We're both like very attentive, present listeners. Yeah. And that allows us to be exactly thinking the same thing that the other person is thinking when they're saying the thing that they're thinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's super awesome quality to look in for a mastermind partner. Someone who's really gonna add value to you, and not someone who's just trying to take charge and who's trying to input their own personal agenda. Somebody who's really got a genuine interest in you and where you want to be. That's the first thing I realized when we met up, was like, you were so curious about like, what do you really want to do though? Like, yeah, you had an idea of what you wanted to do. You really had like a set vision of what you wanted to do. And you knew what you were looking for in someone like me, but you didn't try to push that on me whatsoever. You wanted to find out first, what do I really want? And does that potentially have a mutual benefit to what I want to do, to where we can work together and achieve both of those things simultaneously? And we're just finding out more and more every time that we meet up, and even through this conversation right here, that it does, and it does so much, and they work and they blend, they ebb and they flow so well together.
Yeah, it's super strange actually. Yeah, because I'm always skeptical, like if I'm meeting somebody that I think could be a potential like mastermind partner or business partner, I'm always skeptical because my intention is never to force my will onto somebody. But if they like really want to do the thing that I don't prefer to do within the like the business structure, and for me that's like all the business side of music and all that shit, and they like really have a passion for that, then I'm totally stoked to work with them. So that's why when I was talking to you the first couple times, I was really skeptical, because I was like, I don't know if he's just saying that, like if he's actually like interested, like if he actually likes to do the business stuff, like all that stuff. Just realized the mic is a little turned weird. But as I started talking to you, and I think as you started talking to me, it started to become really apparent that like what we want just like really lines up. Mm-hmm. So it's strange. I think I'm still noticing that there's other things that we're trying to figure out and sculpt out within what both of our needs are and stuff, and trying to just get those clear within this like business partnership. But in terms of the basics, it just seems like everything is just so perfectly aligned. It's almost like there's a spiritual aspect to it.
There definitely is, yeah. Like, yeah. I get so many goosebumps when we talk, like I literally just did, because you use the word sculpt. And as you're speaking, I was thinking about the analogy of basically sculpting out, like looking at what's already there and just looking at it from different realities, looking at it from different perspectives and angles as we walk around it together. Basically, through conversation, we've been walking and dancing around this thing that is ultimately going to be a destiny that we create. And that's also kind of ties back into what you were talking about being a good listener, and being a good conversationalist in general. Is just like, it's almost like you're sculpting a craft together. You start with this big block that could be anything, and one person starts talking, they chip a little bit away at the block, and the next person comes in and sees what they did, and they can add to that. But if they have just a personal agenda, then they can just, throw up all over it, right? Make it their own thing and really force or they could just add a little bit and let the next person come in and just kind of whittle away at this block until you've created something that both of you ended up really enjoying, instead of one thing that one person really enjoys and the other person is just kind of mediocre about because it wasn't really their vision.
Yeah, that's so true, man. Like, I know I've been guilty of this in the past. Like, sometimes, like, I'll just be listening to somebody, but I'm not actually listening. I'm just like,
we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, we're all guilty of it. Like, I'm just like, dude, I just want to say the thing that I want to say. And so I'm just like, and then I just say
your hamster wheel's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, it happens, but like, that's when I think it's important to have integrity and just be like, hey, you know what? I value what you just said, and I value what you're saying. I caught a little bit of it. Would you mind reiterating maybe a little bit?
That's true, yeah.
Because like, it happens to all of us. Like, there's no possible way especially if somebody's diving into a monologue about something they're passionate about and they talk for over 5 minutes, it happens. People get really excited.
Well, that's what I think makes our conversations good, is because all of the things that you're passionate about, I'm also passionate about. So when you're talking about, like, the other day you were talking about Napoleon Hill's ideas of how all thoughts are vibrations, and like getting really deep into, we don't have to get into the whole ideas that we're talking about, but like, when you start talking about that, it's something that I am so like interested in. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, listening isn't a chore. It's just like, I want to listen because you're talking about something interesting.
And it's natural.
And it's very natural, It's like to me, it's like, the knowledge that you have is like listening to an audiobook or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening, and then I'm like, oh, that corroborates with this knowledge that I have, that I learned from either this experience or like this book or something. And then I feed you that, and then you probably find something interesting in that, and it just works really well that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's amazing, and where we connected really well on personal development. And I think that's a great foundation for a lot of people out there who are just looking to forge that new relationship in their life that's going to take them to where they want to go. If you're not investing into personal development, you really should.
Yeah.
Because it's that foundation that when you connect with that person who will take you to that next level, because, network is your net worth, and all those cliche sayings are so true, though, because you can't do this thing alone. No matter what you're trying to do, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing in life is going to require the help of other people. So if your foundation is in personal development, and you're just naturally, through reiterating some of the things that you learn, you're going to find other people who are resonating on that same frequency, and that's going to help you find that partner who's going to help you excel you to that next level.
100%. Definitely agree with definitely I find that wherever I'm at in my life, I tend to find people that are in that same zone, So I definitely feel that. And then also I feel like, to tag on to what you're saying about don't be afraid to invest in yourself with personal development, two things that I feel about that. The first thing is that, I always tell people, if you are like questioning whether you should buy this book or like whether you should, invest in this online course or something, like, do it. Like, don't question it, because like the most important person in your life is you. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to create everything that you have in your life, so you might as well invest all your resources into yourself. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think that if you're trying to meet somebody to work with and trying to add value to somebody's life, whether that be in like a romantic relationship or like a business partnership, like, you want to be able to be somebody or like have things that like help people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that arsenal.
Yeah, add value, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're just going out and just saying, hey, I need to find somebody that's going to help me without having like any intrinsic understanding of important knowledge or something that could help the other person, then it's not going to work out. I mean, you know, what the question is, what do you have to offer? And usually you can find that through personal development and getting knowledge, specialized knowledge in certain fields. So I think that's also what makes our friendship really work super well, is that we both have really interesting knowledge that's very nuanced in certain ways that the other person might not have, or different skills that can supplement each other, you know? Yeah. So it's like, it's cool. I think personal development is important. I think that's the main point.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. It's a foundational principle of just adding value. That we could learn in like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just kind of what you're saying is what that reminds me of. That's in anything. You don't have to be an entrepreneur or a musician or anything, or looking for a partner. That's in like, if you're just even going for a job, that is super important. You want to place yourself in a position to where like, what value can you add to that company? Like, what can you do for your country? Ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. It applies in all aspects. You know, if your mindset is constantly, how can I give? How can I add value? You're going to receive tenfold constantly. But if you're constantly thinking about how can I receive, how can I take, and you're having that scarcity mindset as opposed to that abundance mindset, you know what I mean? It's just going to, that's what you're going to attract. You're going to attract that scarcity. You're going to see what you can take and what you can harbor and what you can hoard in your life, as opposed to how much you can give and how much value you can add to people, and you'll just see it just comes back in your life tenfold.
That's such a good foundational principle. I mean, I think, I hate to keep reiterating the point, but like, that's what makes us like really appreciate this partnership, because, you know, I think we're both used to just giving to everybody, and that's created a lot of abundance in both of our lives. But now it's like we found like our equal that are both willing to give 100% into this business that we're building. And, you know, there's something really cool about that, because it's like, it compounds, you know, as I experienced you giving, like you purchased some of my like merch online or something, like, or you paid for my food the other day. And then, you know, now I'm inclined to help give you something. I gave you a guitar, and like, but like it really like starts to build. And if you're with somebody who's like a true giver, I feel like it always comes back tenfold. And then you keep multiplying that, and this energy just starts to build, where you're just creating something that is so much more powerful than if you're just either doing it by yourself or like trying to give to people that don't reciprocate that necessarily super well. So it's a pretty interesting situation that we've found ourselves in to be doing this. But I kind of want to segue too a little bit to just get more on point with the point of the podcast, and to just kind of talk a little bit more in depth about, I know we mentioned a little bit in the intro, but like about what our plans are, and like how we're planning to build this business, what the goal is, right? You know, all these different aspects of that. So I don't know if you want to
segue perfectly into that. What kind of value do we want to add through this business, right? So we're talking about, we want to create a business, right? That could be a multi-million-dollar asset generating, you know, whatever one day, right? And we're attracting that into our life, but the focus really has got to be, before any of that, what are we going to give? What are we giving the people that is ever going to end up creating something like that? Yeah, such a great question. So I really would love to dive into that, kind of maybe like the brand development and what we stand for, our values, and like what we value and what we want to give back. Personally, I think the major thing right now is going to be that sense of community and togetherness is a huge value that we can bring back to people, especially coming out of this pandemic. And we both believe almost said magic. Not magic.
It is magical in some sense.
I was going to say music is a magical way to do that. I wasn't going to say magic, but magic just came. Music is a great way to do that. I think music is so powerful, and it's an amazing way to create a sense of community in people. And to me, that's always been one of my values. That's what pulls me. That's what I'm passionate about, is creating communities. And I've also been very passionate about music. So if you want to talk maybe a little bit about that, like what that means to you, or is that more just like, we talked a little bit about it, but like...
Yeah, I mean, we totally align on that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, so even just going out the other night and we went to this like open mic type thing. It wasn't even open mic, but like...
But we kind of made it.
We kind of made it open mic. I ended up just performing. The guy that was playing there, it was at this bar. He was really kind, and he was like, hey, I see you're looking at this guitar. Do you want to come play it? So I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'd love to come play it.
He just knew. It was very organic.
It was so organic,
Yeah.
just like supernatural. It was supernatural. Nice. No pun intended, but sort of pun intended. Yeah, so, but just going there, and we were being safe as possible during this time, you know, just trying to social distance as much as possible. But anyways, I wanted to point that out because I think COVID's really serious and we need to respect that. But anyways, we're at this venue and just enjoying the music together and coming together. And towards the end of the night, we all sang "Hey Jude" together.
Yeah.
And
the whole bar.
The whole bar.
The entire bar. It was
Everybody
so cool.
was singing it.
There was only like 10 people, maybe 15
yeah, 10,
people.
15 people.
But still, it was really cool.
But the sensation was this sense of community, and all these people that had been like in their house for months and months, and
strangers probably.
Yeah,
all
complete
probably
strangers
before that night, except for a good chunk of them.
Yeah, all of us were all we came together and made this beautiful music together, and there was something so for me just impactful and emotional about that.
Yeah,
you know, it's just the feeling of just love and like community and caring for one another regardless of what our backgrounds were, anything. It was just the music was connecting us. And so I definitely connect with you on that value in terms of bringing people together. There's something important about music because I feel like it's one of the last facets that we have and the last tools that we have to bring people together nowadays, you know, with all the technology that we have, and a lot of people nowadays just staying indoors and stuff. The few things that they go out for is like sports games, and even at sports games, they're not really like coming together. I mean, but like
the
it's
tailgate.
Yeah, the tailgate, I suppose.
The tailgate.
But music is the real big one that I noticed. It brings people together and really aligns people on a feeling level, like on an energetic level. So I definitely feel that same way, and that's why I'm so passionate about music.
Yeah.
And also, like, I feel like it's, you know, I've been so much into like yo-yoing. I've been successful in that, but I realized that my goal is something that will expand a lot farther than the yo-yo could. And so for me, music is a big platform that I can express this, you know, positive energy and this coming together, but in a global scale that's a lot broader and reaches a lot more people.
Yeah, it's a language of its own that is fluent across all cultures. You know, no matter what physical language you speak or where you grew up in any part of the world, you know, even though your culture has its own unique kind of music, you still hear music and you're not like, what is that sound? You know that it's music, right? And it either makes you happy or sad or angry or uplifted, inspired, right? So through music, it can always carry a message regardless of if you understand the lyrics. When you can understand the lyrics, maybe it's a little bit more powerful and all that, but it's just that common language that the entire world speaks that can be so powerful when utilized correctly. We've seen it not utilized very correctly. I'm not going to point out any specific examples, but we've all seen forms of music that are really just kind of sold out. They're really just all for the paycheck, and you know that holds its own ground too. But I feel like if done intentionally with anything, you do it intentionally, it's not just going to accidentally end up somewhere. It's going to end up where you want it to go.
Definitely.
It's very important.
I mean, what that brought up for me when you were saying that is I went to Malawi, Africa to help with this Feed the Children program.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
It was nuts. It was amazing. It's
That's
one
so
of the
cool.
most amazing experiences of my life. But the most powerful experience for me was sitting around like this circle of these Malawians that were singing this chant, like this super sick just the beat, like they had the bongos going and like the chant, and it was so powerful. It had me so emotional because I was being a part of that. And then they came and told me like, hey, go play your yo-yo. So I started like yo-yoing to this beat, and we're all just having a great time.
Another common language too, right? It's an artistic form.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're all just vibing to this beat and being a community. And I don't speak their language; they don't speak mine. Our cultures are so different, you know. But we all came together, and we're just enjoying the music together. Yeah. And that became more important than any of our differences. Totally. There's something so beautiful about that, and it's just it like makes me so emotional even just to think about it. It was such a beautiful experience for me, and I think that's the type of experience that I want to bring to people through music. Yes. So yeah, we have a lot of different ideas on kind of what we want in terms of what kind of values we want to portray in the world and what kind of things that we want to give to people. And I think also now we're starting to get to the nitty gritty of like, what is this going to look like? You know, I think our last few conversations have been really getting more clear about exactly what it is. Because we know we have like these kind of vague ideas of the values that we want to like express, but now we're, you know, saying, okay, so you're going to handle like the business end of things and all this stuff, and then I'm going to do the artist thing, like creation process. And so, so I don't know, if you want to dive into some of that might be kind of interesting, like what we've been talking about, and maybe we can even do some masterminding while we're on the podcast.
Absolutely, yeah, it'd be very valuable. So just as like a team, like he said, we're basically approaching this from an aspect where he's a very talented, creative artist who is wanting to dedicate his life to creating beautiful music to bring people together, but he wants to do that to an end where he's not getting bogged down by these details. I guess now I'm talking in like a third person. I like to veteran.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
You really wanted to not get bogged down by these business details, and then you met me, and I'm very interested in business, but I was so unfocused, right? I had all these ideas and all this impact that I wanted to make, and you're like, okay, look, what is the one thing that maybe you can focus on now and pinpoint all your efforts and focus to where you can break the game, and then you have that clout, leverage, and capital to go back and do these things that you say you want to do. And
well, before you keep going, like the things that I saw in you, because you saw the things that the kind words that you were just talking to me about, but like the thing that the few things that I saw in you, or the many things that I saw in you, was first, you're super into business. Like you're just so well informed, or like you're so well read, not just business but also like Think and Grow Rich, just growing wealth in general. The other thing is that you're super personable, and you're able to communicate well with people, and that's like the most crucial skill to have in business. Yeah. And so like that, those are the two things that I really saw in you, and I think that I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think you gave me so much kind words that I have to like reciprocate that and let you know why I think you know, this is like a good idea to try to work together. And so, sorry, you were saying?
No, that adds a lot of value to what I am saying though, because it helps point out the fact of like what you, sitting across from the table, what you said to me helped me realize, okay, I do have these assets, you know, while being humble. I do have these assets that focused in the correct direction can really help you, help me, right? And together we can create this beautiful business that does all these things that I want to do and puts me and you into the position where we have this kind of capital built up, and we have that goodwill with the community, right? We'd have so many connections. We'd have so much, I guess we'd call that clout and leverage. I've been using those words so much.
Let's go.
Leverage. So that's kind of where I was. And just over the past 2 weeks, really, have been able to get so focused. And what was the original like thing I was talking about? Of like, am I just talking about like what this partnership consists of? So we're just walking around that again and just shaping that.
Yeah. Basically, just talking about like what our intentions are. Yeah. Also, this is kind of like a video recording of our of our agreements and our process, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And letting people just like, I feel like while we're talking, it's really just doing what we've been doing for the past few days, and like masterminding, creating ideas and thinking through exactly what things are going to look like, how we're going to get to the end goal. And just letting people in on that process to
just be vulnerable and open about it. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So basically, I want to take on the creative end of what it takes to build a brand. To what, I just think, dedicating however long it takes, even 10 years of my life, to building up a very successful brand and something that's recognizable and something that's known worldwide, something that's impactful, something that stands for something that stands for not just something that stands for justice and equality and all of these beautiful things, such as coming together and community and leadership and ownership and positive change and development and all that stuff. When people hear this music, they're uplifted and they're inspired, but they could also be vulnerable, depending on the song or whatever we're going towards. They can be vulnerable and they can relate and they can talk about their depression. They can talk about their anxiety. They can be open about it, and they can look for alternate methods of healing, so they're not just downing the bottle of pills that's prescribed to them and all this stuff. So I just think it's very important to me to create something that makes an impact, a positive impact in the world.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Yeah,
like ching. That's like the money is, I think, for us.
Exactly, yeah. And not only is it going to generate a lot of actual money for us too, like that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like he presented this as a very lucrative and quick way to break into a game in an industry, into a very niched and untapped market, in a position that we're in right now. And he just kind of laid that out for me, and I saw it for what it is. I started doing some research and I started applying what I know. I connected the dots very quickly, and the constellation was just right there. And I was like, okay, Big Dipper, I'm about to just I'm about to go all in, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just, that's kind of what I saw. I don't know, from your perspective, maybe.
Yeah, well, I definitely, I feel like you covered it pretty well. Yeah. The one thing that I'll say is that I don't think it's going to be easy by any facet.
Oh, no.
I think it might be quick. Like if we're really, really on top of everything, I think we can do it quickly. And I think with our combined just intelligence and knowledge and stuff and skill sets, it'll go a lot faster than we could individually do ourselves. But I don't think it's going to be easy. And I know that's not what you meant by quick, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's definitely going to be something that we're both going to have to put a lot of effort into.
It should probably be the hardest thing we've ever done.
Yeah, up to this point.
If we want it to be worthwhile at all, it should probably be the hardest thing that we've ever done up to this point. And
but it's definitely something I think that we're so clear about the benefits to the world and also to ourselves. I mean, we have to be aware that there's personal reasons why we want to do this too, but just be aware of there's so much value that we can add in every facet. The result is, the goal is so worthwhile that this is something that we're going to be willing to sacrifice a lot of ourselves and a lot of our resources and put into it to make sure that it succeeds. And that's something that I'm really excited about personally. A little scared.
It is scary, yeah.
But yeah,
it's very scary, especially when you start throwing figures at it. Like when you start talking about 5 million streams by 5 million monthly streams by May 2021, right? Initially I was like, yeah, cool, right? And then I kind of just started thinking about it. I was like, man, monthly? That's like 60 million a year, and like
huge numbers.
And I just like started overthinking it. Like I just started thinking like zeros. That's a lot of zeros. That's 9 zeros or something, or 7, 8 zeros. My gosh, yeah, what's so many commas? What's going on? It's easy to overthink those things, but it is also important for me to realize, like, okay, but that means at minimum $20,000 a year. That also means, like, holy crap, a lot of momentum to that point, that you're not just gonna like get there and then that's it, you plateau. I mean, it's possible, but that's not definitely what we're gonna do, right? So I think I started looking at all the positive perspectives of it. But dang, perspectives of it.
There you go.
And then I also started to look at some of the, not just the bigger artists, because the bigger artists have clearly definitely done that a millionfold.
Yeah.
But then I started looking at even just like the more mediocre artists that I follow that I know aren't huge yet, but have all that potential. And they've definitely obtained that, right? Just with the music that they put out so far. And I'm like, man, with just the vibe that we got, the intentions that we got, the drive that we got, and the synchronicity that we have in this mastermind, I just went from like overthinking like this is going to be too hard to the point where like I got scared, and I turned that fear, like we talked about, I turned that fear and that anxiety into excitement. Like, this is definitely possible and we're gonna do it. Yes, it's gonna be hard. It should be the hardest thing.
Again, yeah, that's why it's scary, right? Because we see that, oh shit, it's not gonna be an easy road by any means.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, when you're talking about it, I'm like, damn, that's a huge goal. That's a fucking huge goal. Totally. But I think if it was any smaller, I don't think, for me, it wouldn't be worthwhile. So there's something really like beautiful about the grandness of it and the scariness of it. But I think that's why we're having these conversations now too, because a lot of times I think both of us can get caught up in the grand scheme of things and not have a chance to talk out the little rungs of the ladder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when you're driving, you're not looking. I'm starting in Kaneohe. I'm not looking all the way into Hawaii Kai. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm also not looking like at the pothole right in front of me. You know, or else I'm going to crash into the back of the car. I'm looking, you know, an easy like 200 to 300 feet ahead of me, right? So we got to see those goals. But you're also, you know, like, okay, there's also an incline up there, and then it goes downhill. Like, you already kind of know the layout of the land because you've driven it a few times maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Or you've seen others drive it or whatnot.
That's a super good analogy, dude.
Right,
that's interesting because I'm thinking about that. Yeah, it's like what we've done with our major goal right now, with the May goal, is plot an address in our GPS, right? So we know where we're going to go. And now our major goal is clear. We've plotted the path. We want to make 5 million streams by May. And, you know, my dad said that, you know, just set a time. If you don't achieve it by then, like, add a year to that. But you're going to achieve it. And that's, like, the point. My dad's a very successful businessman. For those who are just tuning in, like, they don't know my story at all, my dad basically started the yo-yo boom back in 1996 to 99. So any yo-yos that you bought during that time was probably due to my dad. But his advice is that just set a goal. So that's our goal right now. And just keep going until you accomplish it, basically.
Yeah, I think what's going to help us the most is another, I guess, driving analogy. We're talking about your vision of when you're driving, you're not looking at the pothole in front of you, but you're also not going to be able to see all the way to the destination. And then you're talking about GPS, which is very important, you know, having that route already kind of drawn out with possible detours ahead. And another thing is consistency. And what you can think of is, like, you can be in the best, most efficient Lamborghini ever, but if you're going to hit a stoplight every, you know, mile on a, you know, 50-mile journey, you're not going to get there as fast as the worst built car ever, but it's cruising at a steady 50 miles per hour on the highway all the way there. You know what I mean? It's that consistency of going at that pace that's going to take you all the way there, as opposed to just like stop and go, stop and go, stop and go.
Mm-hmm. Dude, there's so many analogies with that. That's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think what you're saying about being in the present moment is really crucial for us, and starting to lay out the smaller details and the smaller steps, which is what we're doing right now. I mean, that's really essentially the purpose of our conversations, podcasts or otherwise. You know, if we're just talking over lunch, it's like basically the same thing as this, but in this case, now we have other people watching us, and hopefully now, dude, I'm like, okay, shit, now there's people holding us accountable, so we gotta fucking do the shit that we're doing.
Yeah, I hope if you're watching this, you hit us up in May 2021 and check our progress. We'll surely surpass what we're saying. But yeah, for sure, that accountability is huge, I think. I had something I was gonna say and I forgot. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's dope. I think I'm glad that we get to finally do our first podcast, or I mean, not finally. I mean, we just thought of the idea today,
Yeah.
or we just conversated about the idea. Although we both individually had the idea long before that.
Yeah, and the ultimate idea, we can dive into this a little bit, right, is to bring on successful artists, not just in music, right, and not just an artist, because I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're an artist. I think even if you're an employee and you've created a great success, you're still an artist of your day-to-day life, you know.
Or if you're a businessman,
Yeah.
or if you're, you know, an artist in a different facet, maybe not a musician.
Right.
Like you could be just like a Bob Ross.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely Bob Ross. Yeah, Bob Ross, come on.
Bob Ross, the ghost of Bob Ross.
Yeah, the ghost of Bob
Huh?
Is he R.I.P.?
Yeah, he's R.I.P.
I didn't even know.
You know Bob Ross, right? With the
I know Bob
afro?
Ross.
Yeah.
Is he not around?
He's not around.
Oh,
It's pretty...
I didn't know. I'm sorry.
It just got really dark.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Rest in peace, Bob Ross.
Yeah, dude, Bob Ross is dope. I respect
Really
Bob
cool.
Ross.
Yeah, I got a little Bob Ross look.
Oh, yeah?
Little like it's like paint, but like you draw them in. It's probably for kids, but I like it anyways. I'm a kid at heart, anyways. So that's who we want to talk to. We want to get in the back pocket of artistic and creative individuals who have navigated success for themselves and people around them, and have really risen up a team of people and are on a journey, or even have completed a journey if you're older. Of something, you know, worthwhile and very successful. We want to help get that out into the world with the platform that Evan has developed so far, and that we're going to continue developing over the years, and put it out there to the world, and also help us learn in our journey, navigate our own success. And yeah, I mean, like, do you have any other ideas around like what this is going to evolve and turn into?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I was mentioning this over lunch, but I'll just say it again. There's basically three main reasons why this podcast is going to be good. I mean, first of all, we're going to be able to share artist stories that have, you know, full-on stories that they haven't been able to share in long form like this, and how they, you know, accomplished the things they did and add value to people. I think number two is you and I are just going to be able to get a lot of experience and learn from them personally and how to build our own business. And then three is, wait, what was the third one again? I can't remember. Just have a platform to build our brand, you know, to build the brand of Evan from Heaven, my music, but also to build this brand of this podcast that will have a lot of credibility in and of itself, and be able to be used for all sorts of things, to connect artists, to connect ourselves to other artists, or to, you know, connect to business people. We don't know, but it's just this platform, having this platform and building credibility of the platform is going to be really useful for all sorts of different reasons. And I think that's what I'm super excited about, because I also just like to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I know you like to too.
Just connecting and really digging into, and that's what I mean by getting in their back pocket, is like, I want to know about the arc, right? I want to know about the arc of their story. I want to know about their mindset kind of going into what they originally thought they were going to build, and how that morphed and evolved over time, and what challenges did they face? What was their main antagonist, and how did they overcome all of these failures? How did they turn those failures into eventually the success that they currently have, and even go full circle with that, like with what they want to see it become, or maybe if they're a little bit older and that's kind of just been their journey, like where it ended up being. That's super, I think, impactful for anybody to listen to, whether it be somebody in that industry, but just hearing about other people's challenges and failures and how they overcame that. People can relate to that vulnerability, and I think that authenticity and vulnerability is going to be key, and that's why it's going to be a great podcast for people to listen to. The more and more guests we can get on the show, because everyone has their own unique journey, and the more we hear, the more we can relate to that and learn more about our journey and how it's going to look.
Totally. The authenticity thing hits it on the head so hard, because nowadays with social media and everything, all you see is the best thing, like the hit that the artist put out. You only see, you know, all the highlights of everybody's life. Like they say that social media is just like everybody else's highlight reels, and you're comparing your own life to their highlight reels.
Right.
But the part that you're talking about is diving into like all the difficulties and challenges and just knowing what the struggles were and the ugly sides of things. I think it makes it relatable and also gives people practical solutions to what they're going through in their lives.
Yeah, that hits it right there. The practical solutions, right? It's super important. Like, and what you're talking about with like the highlight reels of social media is like, whether like especially if you casually follow an artist, or even like I'm a pretty big fan of Logic, and we hear that NPR podcast, the How I Built This with Guy Raz, where they did Logic and his manager Chris Zero, and like I loved Logic, but even then, like I was just thinking like, oh, Logic has this like crazy dope life, and like yeah, he rapped about some of the struggles he went through, and I, you know, believed all those were true and all that. But when you really hear the authenticity and vulnerability of him opening up and telling the story
in long
not
form,
just in a song, in long form through the duration of an hour, that has been so impactful. I've personally listened to it several times, and I know you've already listened to it twice, if not more by now.
Yeah.
Since I showed it to you, and I've shared that with many of people who have just found that to be very inspirational, other musicians, and that's a great podcast, by the way, and that's kind of something I'd like to emulate, just how great Guy Raz is at just digging into their story, getting into their failures, and how they learned from that and developed, you know, how they became who they are now today. So cool.
Dope. So yeah, we got a cool vision for this podcast. I think we're probably going to have to end it here because I really have to pee.
I think it's just about an hour too anyway.
Yeah,
so
super dope.
Cool, yeah. Well, we're going to do this again soon. We haven't really figured out the frequency of this, daily or weekly or whatever. But
yeah, we'll talk through those things. But definitely expect some really good stuff.
We're going to come back soon.
Subscribe if you haven't. If you're on Spotify or any other platform, give us a follow. And we'll come back.
This is one of many.
One of many.
And we're going to start having guests on. It's not just going to be us talking about our lives. You're going to hear from some very interesting people that you might know or be interested in. So
dope. What should we do for the outro?
Let's do another song.
Let's do a song for the outro?
Maybe we should make like a little beat. Like.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, we did a cup song.
This is the outro, yeah. This is the outro. This is the outro, yeah. I don't know, but that's okay. The Artist Podcast. It's gonna get better as we go. The Artist Podcast. Yeah.
Golf claps.
No.
This is the outro. Everything should just be super straightforward. The most straightforward podcast out there.
Oh my god, alright. Dope.